Hello everybody, my name is Tomas Wolff. I'm an artist and an art educator, and I know these are hard times for all of us. We're all isolated and at home, but I think it's a good time to engage in some art activities. The creative process is always good for the soul, and I'd like to give you a short class workshop on Sumi-e ink wash painting. There's many names that this process has been called. Japanese wash painting, Japanese ink painting, Chinese brushwork, or Sumi-e. Those are all, it's all just brush and black ink. So, why do I like doing Sumi-e? I've engaged in other art forms such as sketching and painting, and I've also done a lot of clay work. And one thing that I really like about Sumi-e is that it's fast and you get instant gratification. You can produce an artwork in just a few minutes. And no matter what kind of artist you are, whether you're a painter or a sketcher or a mosaic artist, I think it's always good to get back to the basics. Get involved in the creative process at a very elementary level. So, the Japanese, the history of Sumi-e is that in Japan around 592 to 710, known as the Asuka period, and at the same time the Chinese Tang period from 698 to 907. So you can see that this art form is at least 1,000 years old, over 1,000 years old. And the Koreans also were involved. The whole Asian peninsula was doing, that some people refer to as Asian painting. And in Japan, during the Muromachi period, which was 1392, started in 1392, the philosophy of Zen was added to the painting technique. And the Zen philosophy was simplicity, spontaneity, and harmony with nature. So in effect, while you're painting, you're using a simplicity of materials. It's basically a brush and some black ink and a piece of paper and water. And it's spontaneity of process too. So you don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need necessarily a lot of technical expertise or ability. And you're connecting to nature in a very basic way. You're trying to capture the essence of a natural object or a space. So, let me just say one thing about the creative process. Creative process. Observation. We go out into nature, we look at a flower or a mountain, and we study it. We look at it for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes. And the first thing we tend to do with our analytic mind is to analyze the flower. How big is it? What is the shape? Does it look like an oval? Or does it look like a star? What is the basic shape you see? But there's also the sensing part of observation, which is when you look at an object, how does it make you feel? What kind of a visceral experience are you having from observing that scene of the mountains? And after we've done this observation and sensing, we then take a pen or a brush or whatever tool, artistic tool we want to use, and we start trying to emulate that thing that we've looked at, that we've observed and analyzed and gotten a feel for. And so that's the artistic process. We paint. And after we're done painting for a while, we tend to stand back and look at our object, at our painting, and decide whether we like it or not. And there again, we go through that same process where we evaluate it from our feelings. You know, do we like it because of the way it feels? But we also tend to technically analyze the painting, which is good. You know, we need both. But, and then finally, we come to the editing and redoing of the artwork. In Sumi-e, you would start over again and do another painting. You don't spend too much time working secondarily on a painting. And then you go through that whole process again where you reevaluate, and that's the creative process. So think about that while you're doing some of these things. Basic materials. A brush. These are made with deer hair. They tend to be long and flexible, and they tend to have, the ones from Japan and China tend to have bamboo handles, and there are different sizes, so you know there's small, large, and extra large for people who really want to use their arm. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, here's what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to take my brush and soak it in some clean water. And here in front of me I have 4 containers. This is extra water, and then I have 2 dishes. I'll put this one over here. It's always good to have small white dishes because I'm going to be mixing some ink in here with water and getting a certain dilution, and you need to be able to see how dense it is. So by having a white plate, you can see what your grays look like. And so after my brush has been soaking for a while, I get rid of a bit of the water. Now, the real secret here in getting the different brush strokes is to get the right amount of water mixed in with the right amount of ink. So what you're going to end up doing is a lot of brushing, putting the brush on the side and getting off the excess water. So over here is the ink well. They come in different shapes, but you'll notice that there's a flat spot and then there's a spot right here where the ink goes. And I have here a couple of different kinds of ink. The traditional Sumi-e way of making ink is with an ink stick, like this. An ink stick is the same materials as the stuff in the bottles. This is traditional Chinese ink, it says. But the Sumi-e method involves making your own ink. And the reason they want you to make your own ink is because they believe the process of making the ink integrates you into the process and allows you to meditate and get ready for the brush work. And I found that to be true, but it is a lot of hard work using an ink stick. You start by putting a little bit of water in the base like this. And then you take your ink stick and grab a little bit of the water and start doing slow, methodical circles. What I'm doing is I'm rubbing the ink off of the stick into the water. I'm grinding it down in the water. And you're supposed to use a very methodical, slow, contemplative method of doing this. I'm going to cheat a little on this process, and I'm going to use some finished ink so we don't have to wait too long. So I'm going to put this ink stick back and just put a little bit of ink right here as if it had been ground by some mysterious person. Okay, now I'm ready to go. if you've gotten yourself a brush and you're ready to try this out, you can follow along with me or you can just watch. So, I've already soaked it in the water. I need to make some gray tone, so I put about 1 tablespoon of water. I take a little bit of this ink on the tip of the brush and I put it into the water and swish it around. Now, if you can just barely see the bottom of the plate, that shows you've probably got the right tone of gray that you might need. Okay, you notice how I wipe off the edge pretty quickly. There's 2 ways to hold the brush, by the way. You can have 2 fingers over like this, or 1 finger, according to the Sumi-e instruction manuals. And you hold it about halfway, maybe a little less than halfway. The 2 brush strokes are either done perpendicular like this, or they're done sideways like this. So, I come over here and I soak the brush completely with this half-tone gray. Then I wipe it off 1, 2, 3 times. And I put the tip down in here about 1/4 to half an inch, maybe not half an inch. Okay, this is called loading the brush. So in this part of the brush I have the diluted part, and on the tip I have the straight ink. Now, if I want to do some quick drawings, I can just use the tip of the brush. You notice how it starts getting darker and lighter as it goes along? That's the kind of progression that you use in your paintings too. You take that into consideration. Okay, so I come back here, I clean off the tip, I pick up some more of the halftone, and I wet the brush a little bit, 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 maybe. This time I'm holding the brush sideways. Now right there, you notice how the ink breaks up and forms texture. Well, the Japanese love that, the Chinese love that. That's texture that comes instantaneously. And you also notice how the grays are on this side and the darks are on that side. So, everyone should practice those techniques, just doing free form, whatever they want to do. So here, I put brush in, take about 3 wipes of the side of the plate, put the brush in about 3/8, and I'll try something else, maybe making little circles. And you notice as I go along how they start getting lighter and lighter. If you want a half tone, you can swipe it down, and you know there's a nice one right there where I've gotten sort of the ink and the grays to combine. And sometimes I even like to just do geometric shapes for a while. Here I'm sort of getting this mixed up here. I'm going straight to the ink. Okay, so practice using your perpendicular. Now I've just put halftone in there, and I can use it to fill in parts if I want to get some halftones. If I want some texture. All right.